Getting to 2050. Hi, I'm Roger Kuhns, and I've written an energy policy book with George Shaw. It's about navigating the energy maze and America's transition to clean energy. We need a national, comprehensive, sustainable energy policy to do this. Why do we need to transform our society from a carbon economy to a sustainable economy? We need to do this because we are killing the earth. We're using up our natural resources. So how are we going to achieve this transformation? We shall do so by building political will and business will for a livable world. You see, we at Citizens Climate Lobby and at our energy concerns are communicators. And because we are citizens, we are also lobbyists. And we empower people to make informed, ethical policy and business decisions using facts. So what's our situation? We're going to look at the northeastern United States to understand this. But take a look at our national transmission grid. How does this work? And how do we work with it? Well, in this grid are a number of components. There's ownership and structure, there's utilities and regional organizations, there's the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, known as FERC, and there's also oversight by NERC. That's the North American Electric Reliability Corporation. Now, across the U.S. and Canada, we have power provider regions and balancing authorities. Some of these are called ISOs and are independent system operators, like the one up in New England. ISOs provide open access for electricity to retail and wholesale markets and management through groups of utilities with oversight by the federal and state agencies. In the Northeast, we have interactions between ISOs in the New England states, New York, and Ontario. Now, ISOs have three key roles. They have roles for grid operations, market administration, and power system planning. So, what is the scale of ISO New England's responsibilities? ISO New England has oversight on over 350 generators. That's 32,000 megawatts of generation capacity. Energy planning, right now it's 45% natural gas. And new generation, most of that is planned to be natural gas. They serve over 7 million retail customers and have served out 124,000 plus gigawatt hours of annual energy. And they have to meet the peak demands on a seasonal basis. This is done with 9,000 miles of high voltage lines, partnering with New York and Ontario because 17% of the energy need is imported. The markets include over 400 buyers and sellers in the 8 states and effective real-time pricing and trading on the wholesale electricity market. Now, ISO New England reports significant emissions reductions over the past 15 plus years, but this is largely due to increasing efficiencies and converting coal and oil generation plants to natural gas source. Not so much relying on renewable energy. It's a very small component here. Now, the states have deep emissions reduction goals, but these cannot be achieved without significant renewable energy generation added to their portfolios. As it is going right now, these portfolios are not enough and are not being acted upon fast enough. Consider our energy choices and the related carbon dioxide emissions on this graph. Note that on this log scale projection, we see fossil fuels releasing an enormous amount of carbon dioxide relative to clean energy renewable resources and nuclear power. Also note that a meat diet has a lot of carbon dioxide. The ISO New England fuel switch is shown here between 2000 and 2016. Note coal and oil are all but gone, replaced with natural gas, and a very small percentage of renewable energy. On a New England state-by-state portfolio standards basis, the renewable energy targets are largely insufficient, except for Vermont, to achieve emissions reduction goals. In fact, current trends see a long-term reliance on natural gas. This situation will not adequately reduce emissions or address climate change concerns that we are already experiencing on the coastal states. So what is a good energy mix? Certainly, the energy systems have to be efficient, cost-effective. They have to be competitive so that users can afford them. And they have to be flexible to deal with peak load requirements and seasonal variations. And they have to be regulated so that there's a regularity to them and a safety to them. But it is not business as usual anymore. We are in this transformative stage from a carbon economy to a clean energy economy. So we have to reassess our energy systems and look at what is most abundant, such as the sun and the wind, and how can we use this innovatively. And we must have a high degree of safety. This is especially true for human health. And the energy must be sustainable because we are reducing our reserves of the fossil fuels. Now, as we look back in time, we see energy eras. Before oil, of course, there was wood, but we have oil, gas, hydro, nuclear, and we're in an area of renewables. So if you look at each of these eras, they're 10, 20, 30, 40 years long. And we have natural gas actually preceding the renewables. But renewables are critical to the future of our energy situation. So who made this graph? British Petroleum made this graph. That means that oil company knows what's going on and is planning for it. What is the energy balance of the New England states and New York? Well, let's take a look. Mark Jacobson of the Solutions Project foresees a 2050 zero fossil fuel energy future. Now, to do this, he replaces the fossil fuels across the board with renewables and efficiencies. So let's look at his case of what the energy mix might look like in New York. Well, residential rooftop solar is important at 3.6%, as is commercial government rooftop solar at 3.2%. Solar plants, though, those big arrays of solar PVs, 35.8%. We don't see any concentrated solar plants in New England. And wind offshore, 40%. Wind onshore, 10%. So wind makes 50% of this portfolio. And hydro in select areas, up to about 6.5%. This is for New York. We also get a little bit of energy from tidal turbines and a little bit from wave energy. These are relatively minor components. And we don't get any from geothermal. We are on the wrong geologic provenance for that. But this is the mix. And we're wondering, does this cover it? What I'd like to show you now is some variations on this theme. Because one thing that my co-author George Shaw and I agree on is we need to add a few things to Jacobson's list because we see needs for something like liquid fuels. Biomass can produce quite a bit of this. And we also need small modular nuclear reactors, SMRs. We see this as critical in the future. Very important, diverse storage systems, batteries. And putting all of this delivery in context, we see a great importance in microgrids. So here we are in the Northeast. If we look at ISO New England 2016's energy balance, that's basically now, we see some biomass, nuclear, coal, a lot of reliance on natural gas, and oil, gas, and jet fuel, and a little bit of hydro, a little bit of wind, a little bit of solar. So let's jump out to 2050 and let's see what an energy mix might look like. First, I'm going to show you my colleague George Shaw and I, our proposal. We see an importance in biomass liquid fuels and nuclear and other zero-C energy sources. Hydro, wind, and solar are very, very important. We still have some liquid fuels. If we look at Energy Sage's predictions, they go entirely hydro, wind, and solar without nuclear or biomass. If we go to Mark Jacobson's Solution Project solution, again, no biomass or nuclear, a great reliance on wind and solar. With this energy mix, the energy of the future, 2050, might look something like this. Of course, the green is our preferred solution here. So we have to make a choice. If we keep burning fossil fuels, the CO2 in the atmosphere will continue to grow. It will continue to affect weather and climate. And if we look at our ecological footprint for the United States, what we see is Americans eat on average 5.6 Earths. That means other people in parts of the world have virtually no resources. Joe Lasseter said, "Rich countries do what they choose. Poor countries do what they must." So, from a climate perspective, this is urgent. And that's why we need the first bill to be carbon fee and dividend. This is the Citizens Climate Lobby's proposal. So how do we actually get to 2050? Now, right now, you are an energy customer. But I am asking you to become an energy partner. We have to continue to empower Congress to pass carbon fee and dividend and other sustainable focused energy bills. Federal policies are critical and good laws make a difference. How is this funded? Well, the private sector investing is already well underway, and rate increases will certainly follow, and government subsidies will be necessary at certain times and in certain areas, and other loans and other financial mechanisms will be called upon. Safety is key for the future of our energy systems. So the new energy systems have to ensure human health, enrichment of the community, protection of the environment, social justice and equitability, and even address safety in terms of anti-terrorism. So how long is this going to take? How fast can we actually make this transformation occur? Well, here's one example. This is the ideal development timeline for a utility-scale solar power plant. On the bottom you can see 6 years, and these bubbles of all the tasks that need to be done. Now, if you have the thing designed and you have the land and everything like that, you might cut this down to 3 years. But the point is, this does not happen overnight. We have to prepare for this. And this is where you are, again, very important. You're becoming an energy partner. So you have to empower your utility to strategically plan for 2050, and specifically to plan for 2050 without the use of fossil fuels to bring you the electricity you need. So, transition to clean energy. This requires a national energy policy, but not just any policy. This policy must be comprehensive and must be sustainable. This requires critical new energy legislation. So again, we've proposed 8 pieces of legislation. The first is carbon fee and dividend, and we address the use of electric vehicles and low-emission vehicles, electrical energy transmission corridors from the new renewable energy farms, zero emissions energy sources, that's the renewables, a network of vehicle recharging facilities for electric cars, microgrids, technology innovation, energy manufacturing and efficiency, and of course, zero emissions public transportation. So again, carbon fee and dividend. How does this work? Well, money is collected from the mine, from the oil and gas well, or from the port of first entry and transferred to an account in the U.S. Treasury. And this money is rebated to every household in America. That would be a revenue-neutral solution, or used in other diverse ways in a non-revenue neutral solution. We see in some of the states, as shown here, they're already working on pricing carbon either through a tax or a fee because they realize this is the first step in our transformative economy. This second bill I want to just highlight for you is the microgrids bill. This is our sixth piece of legislation. This is important because what it does is it looks at things like smart cities, industrial business parks that are isolated in the sense of producing their own energy, but connected to other microgrids as well, rather than having one major grid system. This would involve renewable energy generation and storage and highly efficient systems. So we have proposed 8 pieces of legislation to get us to a sustainable, comprehensive national energy policy. We need this to be based on sustainability, the environment, community, and the economy. We need to empower Congress to pass legislation for this sustainable energy policy. If you want to know more about the policies we propose, you can check out our book, Navigating the Energy Maze: The Transition to a Sustainable Future. Thanks very much.